I'm also the lead technical artist. And this is the tech art team. Tech artists are the unsung heroes of game art development. They make tools and define processes that allow artists to focus on making great art. One of the many roles that a tech artist can have is that of a rigger. A rigger is a person who puts bones and specialized controls onto a model that animators then use to bring creatures and characters to life. The Pandaria has our most modern rig with an amazing facial system that allows for great amounts of personality and expression to be placed on top of already incredible animations. Thank you.
Animator, which means that these guys are responsible for creating over 800 animations per expansion, which is a daunting number because animation is a lot of hard work. So one of the things we try to do with animation is that even though all these guys are working on the same, and girls are working on the same, or I'm sorry, women are working on the same animation at the same time, we want to make sure that the end game looks like one person made all of the animation for one character. So at any one given time, every animator in the bullpen will be working on, say, the Pandarian or the Manter or any one race, and they all work together as a group to make sure that the stuff is coming together and looking consistent. This is a little bit of a movement animation, and we wanted to break it out and kind of show you guys against a white screen what we've done recently to kind of upgrade our character animation system. We have an awesome rigger. Alexis Mead has done a fantastic job making these guys come to life. Blue talked a little bit about that. Here you can see how it all came out. One of the new things that we're really excited about is squash and stretch, as well as almost 10 times the number of bones in the face that we previously had in older character models. So what that allows us to do is get the expressions that you'll probably see if you're in his face as he's jumping around. And also, if you watch his belly when he's running around doing this stuff, you can see that jiggle. We weren't previously able to do that, and it's opened up a whole new realm of stuff we can accomplish with animation. And he's bored with what I'm saying, so he's going to meditate. So that's the conversation animation. One of the things that's super important with these guys especially, but characters in general, is nailing the silhouette. These monk animations illustrate that point against this white background because the animators worked really hard to make sure that in any viewpoint you could really tell the breakdown and the silhouette of what the character is actually doing. These attack animations have to happen within a second, so they're working really hard to get across exactly what the character's doing in that short period of time. And I'd like to say that that they filmed me doing this stuff for reference, but unfortunately it was a combination of a couple people on the team who are a little bit better at martial arts than I am, and then studying, you know, cool Shaolin style martial arts and that kind of stuff. You can tell I'm well practiced on this animation bit, right? So unarmed combat was very important to us. We wanted to make sure that it had that really cool kind of Shaolin Kung Fu monk style. And then all of a sudden they have to have this weapon. And game animation is interesting because not only do these things have to work with unarmed combat, but all of a sudden they have to hold a sword or hold a staff. So a challenge for the animation team is making sure that the animations they do in unarmed combat come through when they're holding a weapon. And this is sort of illustrating exactly what that's doing. You can see all these animations if you play the demo. That's kind of a breakdown of exactly what we've done for the basic animation so far. This is our effects team, essentially. So what we're trying to do here is show that using the claw system, we want to get a much more dynamic relationship between the character and the effects that are happening, so that when he's casting and doing his summoning, you can actually see it affecting the character a lot more than it ever has before. And while you're watching these last 10 seconds, I just want to congratulate my mom for hitting level 80 before she came to visit us at BlizzCon. Pandaria. So this is going to illustrate a little bit of like what we're doing with the environment and how this all comes together. And I'm going to hand it off to Gary Plattner to tell you a little bit about how that all happens. Gary?
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, you guys. All right. It's amazing what's involved to get a new character into the game, so good job, incredible. So let's start talking about all the new content that we've been working on that all of you are going to be playing very soon, hopefully.
Definitely.
Very hopefully. All right, that looks cool. Okay, like I said, my name is Gary Plattner. I'm the lead environment artist on World of Warcraft. All right, we were very excited to do this content. Like Chris said earlier, we had wanted to do pandas a long time ago, and China and Asia offer so much and so many resources. We weren't really sure exactly where we wanted to go, so the first thing we do is just to start to put stuff on paper so we can figure out the direction we want to go. We knew we wanted a giant turtle, we knew we wanted a whole new panda zone, but until we start getting the things on paper, our team really isn't sure like where exactly we're going to go. So we'll start to make these concepts. Some of these are marks. So we'll start to make these concepts. These concept pieces are super important. They're going to give us a color palette. They're going to tell us what the mood of the zone is going to be. But most of all, they're going to give us a hint of what the final zone could look like. Beautiful. Nice. All right, so believe it or not, there's only 5 of us that work on the exterior environment team. And it's our responsibility to make all of the natural elements of the game. So we'll make all of the tile sets for the ground and the trees and rocks and things like that. And we work very closely with exterior level designers. There's about 10 of those guys. So altogether, there's 15 of us that build the world and place it using our editor. And we're all doing this by hand, by the way, so everything's hand-placed, everything's hand-painted by the 15 of us. Thanks. So I've talked a lot before, if you've ever been to BlizzCon before, I've talked a lot about trees and rocks and grass and the environment, but I've never really talked before about the importance of lighting and our skyboxes. Lighting is huge. It's very emotional, very different. So here's the starting zone. What if we were to take this zone and completely relight it? We didn't change any other art. All we did was change the sky and change the direct light. They all look pretty cool, but they're all very different. So if we want a zone to feel scary or even dangerous or pleasant or happy, we're going to start doing that with lighting. You might recognize some of these skyboxes, by the way, too. What a big difference. So, skyboxes. Skyboxes are another element that we can use to just add a little more whimsy, add a little more elements to the game. So all they are is a big piece of art that we can use to replace in the horizon. Lets us add a little more style to the game, a little more difference. We first started adding skyboxes in Nagram, was our very first one. And we don't always have to use that. We could use procedural sky like this is computer-generated sky, looks pretty good. Or we'll go with the skybox if we want to be a little more stylistic. Or we'll go with both, like in this case. This is both a procedural sky and a hand-drawn sky. Really cool. Another big part of the game is something we call tile sets. All these are little textures that we can use to paint on the ground to create the game. There's been a lot of technical advancements in tile sets for this expansion. One of the coolest things, I think, okay, here I am just painting a texture at a normal resolution. We've used textures at about 256 forever. Before we were using 64, but check this out. I can actually scale the texture and scale the resolution of the texture. That's incredible. So I can make one texture that could replace the work that I have to do with 3 or 4 textures. So I'm doing one texture that can do all that work, and now I'm just painting in a little bit of rock or a little bit of grass. Just adds more creativity to the game. I think that's amazing. This is our editor, by the way, that we use to create WoW. So that's scalable textures. Another really cool thing, you'll see in a second, is something called height-based texturing, but it lets me paint, for example, snow inside the rocks of another texture, inside the cracks of another texture rather. If I wanted to do this before, even just a few months ago, I would have had to create a texture with snow in the cracks, create a texture without snow, or create one, a combination of rocks. I would have had to do that with 3 or 4 textures. Now I can basically take a rock texture and a snow texture and combine them any way I want to. This was impossible to do just a few months ago. It is incredible. Thanks, Marco. Very new tech, really exciting, just helps us make the world better. So check this out, this next scene, I'm gonna be painting some rock textures on the ground, and I'm gonna lightly paint, we have pressure sensitive tablets, so I can lightly paint a little bit of lava between the cracks of another texture. So the harder I push, the more that lava comes through. Isn't that awesome? I would have had to make all those separate textures if I wanted to do that last year. So I'm going to add a little bit of vertex shading, and darken it a little bit, and pop a little red vertex on top of that, just to bring it out. Boom, done. Really cool. So, all right, hold off here. Thank you very much, but all these new tech examples have just made us make the world better and easier and more fun to make. Right, Marco?
Thank you, Gary. On the engine team, we're constantly thinking of ways we can improve the look of WoW and just generally make it easier to create content. For this expansion, we came up with a technique that allows objects to pick up the terrain texture in their vicinity. This way we can embed caves into the terrain, or do common things like put the terrain on the back of a gigantic turtle. We now also support secondary animation via dynamics. Hopefully we'll be able to bring those chains that Mark was mentioning to life. We're starting with a Pandaria and belt.
Nice.
However, the largest enhancement in this version of the engine is in the lighting. Shadows in WoW traditionally only darken the object rather than obscuring the light source. This resulted in a flat look, even for objects that have a lot of geometric detail. By changing how we calculate the lighting and how we apply it to the scene, we can improve this dramatically. This effect is achieved by looking at the depth information in the scene and then trying to figure out how a location is obscured by its neighbors and then combining that with the lighting. So this is just that mask getting applied here, and then a few before-after shots. With these changes, we feel that we can make the environments look better than ever before in WoW, and we hope to give you many exciting vistas in your journey through Pandaria.
Thanks, Marco. Awesome work. Good job. Marco did an incredible job, and I have to say, after we rehearsed, we were having lunch, had a few drinks in him, and he says, Gary, don't get excited about the scalable textures. But how could I not? It's incredible. For me as an artist, he's just given us more tools to make this expansion the very best one that we've ever done. Absolutely. So thank you, Marco, and
Thank you, Gary,
and everyone else. Thank you, guys.